It's a very cheerful fellow. When I asked him, how come you're so cheerful? He said, well, I'm a pessimist, but that's no reason to be gloomy.
I'd like to question your religion, because it seems to me that you make science a religion itself.
In what way?
Well, it seems like there's kind of a Richard Dawkins cult. Richard Dawkins and like science, really, nothing is certain in science. It works in statistics. You can't prove anything to 100%. So how can you say that science is better than religion, then what you're trying to do is still plant people that bring order to the world?
You can't prove anything to 100%, but 100% is a hell of a lot better than 0%, which is what you can prove by religious reasoning. I mean, I think let me try again on that. The idea that science is a religion, when in fact science is interested in evidence and is prepared to change its mind if contrary evidence comes in, that's very, very different from a religion. As Lawrence said earlier, in science we constantly open to the possibility of having to change our minds, and science proceeds by progressive refinement and changing minds, and there are things that I suppose will never be disproved, things like that the planets orbit the sun. That's never going to change. I don't think that the fact of evolution is ever going to be disproved. It's always going to be true that we are cousins of chimpanzees and of monkeys and of kangaroos. So there are certain things that we definitely know to be true. The evidence is so overwhelming that, in Stephen Gould's words, to object would be perverse. But so-called religious truths have absolutely no evidence going for them whatsoever.
That if I challenged you as Richard Dawkins, you'd probably have a problem with that. Doesn't matter who I am.
No.
We're listening to you now.
You're challenging me now, and I'm accepting the challenge.
Fair enough. Look, I'm a Catholic. I don't agree with what George Pell thinks, but I don't think he's a pedophile either. Like...
No, I don't suppose he is.
Just, you know...
I don't know. I've never asked him.
My point is that you, as an eminent scientist, if I challenge your scientific doctrine, maybe your theories or opinion, you'll disagree with me.
Well, I will, I mean, when you say disagree, I will say, where is your evidence? Here's my counter-evidence. Let's sit down together and look at the evidence. I mean, that's very different from saying that I'm arguing from authority.
In fact, let me jump in. Authority, that's the key point. Richard is not an authority. I'm not an authority. There are no scientific authorities.
Okay, good morning, my kids. Okay, you guys, Christmas is just over, but we're going into the New Year's. I mean, in like a few more days, since today is the December 27th. And I just watched this morning, because you know how my mind is a very curious mind and it always wants to learn. So this is my connection to the outside world, since I cannot go out there and talk to people like I normally do when either I am work or, you know, I'm out in public. Anyways, but this is perfect timing for me to teach you guys about, you know, science versus church or religious beliefs. You know, scientists' beliefs versus religious or people who believe in church and God, versus people who do believe in science. Also, even though there are a lot of people who believe in science and God, but apparently there's not enough of people like me that believes in God, and you know, that speaks up, who actually was a science. Well, I mean, I took science, a lot of science, in Auckland Girls Grammar School. That's why I have all my reports to prove all the sciences that I took, okay? Because that was what interested me when I was growing up. I mean, that was just naturally, and instincts of me to go take all those times. But that came, see, that's when I said natural. It means that was the natural part of wanting to learn about the natural life. Okay? So you heard what that man just said, science, there is no authority in science. Okay? That is a very good point. And that's why I said natural instincts, because if you go to school for science, naturally you're going to learn everything there is about science. Okay, like I told you, it's all about nature, like animals, human beings. Well, we're natural in the physical body. That's why we need doctors. Okay, that's something that a lot of these I wouldn't say uneducated, uninformed. Okay, people who are uninformed, they've never been told by their parents or their teachers or whoever their, the authority figures in their lives that, when you go to, that all this, that a human body right now, the one that fell, the one that God created Adam and Eve out of, okay, that's the body that our spirits live in, okay? And the body that God also had Jesus come and die on the cross in order for us to get back the spirit that we lost from the Garden of Eden through Adam and Eve's fall. So that is why science was relevant in order for us to understand the human nature part of nature, period, okay? So that's something I wanted you guys to understand, because a lot of Christians, I know they were very skeptic about, doctors, and it's true to a point, but Grandma, she was like a doctor herself. She helped give birth to me. She was like, she actually helped my biological mother bring me out of this earth. That was a natural thing in Samoa. When mom gets pregnant, you go to another mother or another lady of the village to massage your belly and give birth to your child. A lot of the kids back in the days, they didn't have doctors. They just had, I don't know, they call it something today, but that's what they used to have. My grandmother never went to the doctor with her kids. She always gave birth to her kids, but she would go to the lake sometimes, so that she can naturally wash herself. That's why sometimes you see people trying to give birth in the tub, because it was a natural thing, so that the kid could be cleansed right away, But I know for a fact my grandma told me that she used to give birth to her kids all the time. Okay, so she had 8 of them, and then she had to get me too. Actually, so that's how I know, there is a natural side of life that, we all need to learn about, and that's part of science. And that's why they're right about no authority in science, but God is the authority. Because he's the reason why I studied science, because I wanted to know how to grow trees, and science is the only subject that will teach you how to grow trees, other than me growing seeds in Samoa or other like coconut. When you go, coconuts, they grow on their own. They'll just you go look for coconuts, and they're like they're sprouting out all over the place, and there's a tree. That's just how the coconut tree grows in Samoa. And then the other thing is the we used to have orange trees. We used to have all kinds of trees in Samoa. And a lot of them, with the birds sometimes, because the coconut is too heavy for a bird to carry in its mouth. So whenever it falls from the top of the coconut, it just, if nobody ever bothers with it, it just grows naturally. So this is why I wanted you guys to learn about the differences. I mean, there's a lot of science like myself. I mean, people who love science. I mean, that also are believers of God. I mean, God was the reason that I study science. But, I mean, I don't know why everybody else don't believe in science. But, I mean, my grandma said that when they were, that they used the sun. I mean, she never had a watch. We never had a clock. I mean, back in those days, they didn't even have TV. They only had like a radio where you have to kind of turn it around and hear something, a channel. You don't even get channels from outside the world. You just get a channel just from your own little country, like your own little village, and it has to be a specific time, So that's what I'm saying, even when I was in New Zealand, they only had 3 channels. When I was there in those days, they didn't have all these sky, skies and stuff like that. I mean, now they have all kinds of stuff. So that's my point, it's very advanced right now, but just remember that not everything is like a spiritual thing, like metals and stuff like that. Though I think they're matters, but they're like part of like life, natural nature. Even God can melt them. Right? That's why back in the days, the blacksmith, in the old days, they used to, make knives, remember, out of fire. Yeah, God can just melt everything, cars that we have, everything. All of this stuff can be just crumbled because they're all pieces of those, the things that they're talking about from the earth. They're all pieces of the earth. If you look at the cement, how did it become so hard? Because they mixed it up. I know because we used to do our cement in Salwafata in with my grandfather, where our village, our neighbors came over and helped us. Where it gets hard, they mix it up where it gets hard. The cement gets hard, and then that's how you get bricks and all that stuff. So that's because remember back in those days they used to use rocks and stuff, before they ever got to this point with all this knowledge. So that was another reason why God stopped the people from building the Tower of Babel, because they only had one language. But God was like, wait a minute, these guys are going way ahead of time. It's not even time yet. Jesus is not even there. He's not even there in flesh. Anyways, guys, because God wanted to redeem them, back to Him, but not through their way. So if you really think about, Jesus is really the ladder. Remember, Jacob had a dream about, there's a ladder, at Bethel, there's a ladder that goes up and down, where the angels are coming down. Well, Jesus is that ladder, okay? Jesus is that ladder that enables everybody to go up and down again like He used to. So that's what I'm trying to say. And then let me continue. Well, you know what? Hold on. I need to rewind back to something I wanted to.
Very bleak writer. He's a very cheerful fellow, and I asked him, how come you're so cheerful? He said, well, I'm a pessimist, but that's no reason to be gloomy.
Okay, this whole subject shouldn't make you guys upset.
Because it seems to me that you make science a religion in itself.
In what way?
It should just make you guys learn more. That's all it is.
Science really.
Like she's asking a question right now.
It works in statistics. You can't prove anything to 100%. So how can you say that science is better than religion? Then what you're trying to do is still harm people that bring order to the world.
You can't.
Okay. All right. Before you guys hear this man's answer, I want you guys to well, this, by the way, this is Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Cross. This is like 10 years ago, and this happened in Australia, okay? And I guess it was, I believe, you know, like, since my conversation started with this young man since 2000 and I don't know, either 3 or 4. It was just, you know, back in, or 2001 even, or something like that. Because I remember I was talking on the, I think it was Mom's computer. So yeah, it was around 2001, because I was there in 2001, and I was going to school for I was at work, but I was also taking community services, because of, you know, when I was in jail, remember, in 2002. So 2001. Okay, so remember, yeah, community services. I was minister, I think. Anyway, so that's why I always remember this conversation I had with this person on my email, you know, because I was on Mom's computer, and I remember I was trying to I was trying to save lives over the computer then, and because that was what we do, right, as Christians, is to save souls for Christ. But I was so shocked when this person told me that they don't teach God in school. Anyways, because me, you know, I grew up, you know, that God is our, you know, our heavenly, well, not that I didn't know then that God was my heavenly Father until I came to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But we had Catholic Church, we had Mormon churches, which is Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we had Efakasa, La Mosa, Methodist, Assembly of God. We had all these churches in Samoa. It's like a big thing. If you are a pastor, you are, well, you know, you have to be treated, you know, and nobody's allowed to break the 10 Commandments. You guys, this is like all different, but I guess now I understand why God had me believe in the in science, because this was around even before I was even born. Like, Darwin was born in 1809, and Joseph Smith was born in 1805. Okay, no wonder the poor thing had a hard time. So, just so you guys know, God was born before. If God only needed one chromosome, Y chromosome, to produce Jesus, because Jesus is the proof. He only has 24 chromosomes, and a man has 23. Well, right there is the evidence why Jesus is perfect and man isn't. Okay. So I just wanted to clarify that. The differences between, science, when they said it's an author, or it doesn't have authority. Where the Bible, yes, we have an authority figure, and that is God, who created each and every one of us. Why He even gave us the Bible and the commandments, to keep us safe from nature, because nature is very a lot of evil being, like evil spirits, try to enter into the body of into this human body, because the spirit is real. Okay, and that means evil spirits are real. So that's the difference between the scientific side of God and the spiritual side of God, because there's evil spirits, and there is good spirit, and God is the good spirit. And we already know Lucifer, who who made Adam and Eve fall, were the bad spirits. So that's why I try to tell you guys, okay, like that part with when I went to church in the Nazarene, God dropped me on my knees to pray for one of my nephews who was going after this guy who killed one of their friends from Jordan High in Long Beach. I didn't know anything about it. I just heard it, but apparently it was real, because I came out from the church, and there was like cops out there, and we were like, oh, what's going on? Anyway, so just so you know, I mean, there is another life, and there is a spirit, and there is bad spirit. But you already heard this, but hear it again. This is what that guy's answer was to her question.
Prove anything to 100%, but 100% is a hell of a lot better than 0%, which is what you can prove by religious reasoning.
So in other words, what he's trying to say here, like, church, I mean, you can prove a lot of things in church, right? Because we can prove that Jesus is the Son of God through his blood, okay, and the chromosomes. But the science, they were saying that it's not 100%. I mean, because it still improves. Just like I told you guys, back in those days, when Jesus, they couldn't decide when Jesus was born. They actually just decided, okay, since, they want to shine the light to the pagan people, or to the people who, they were not believers of Jesus Christ or of anything that is of God, they just, or they forgotten about, Noah, their great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, and the Tower of Babel, because sometimes the parents forget to teach the kids. That's why the Jaredites were the most important ones, because they remembered God even after Noah was, even after their ancestor Noah passed away, and Japheth, Shem, and Ham. The Jaredites were the only one that kept God, in their hearts, like Jared's brother. So that's why you guys really, really need to learn. And Sam was actually one of Nephi's brother, that actually came later on. So that's why I say Lehi and his kids came during the Babylonian time around 600 BC, whereas Jared and his brother, they came after the Tower of Babel, which is after Noah's flood. This is in the BC both, but different times. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing is the timing. Remember I told you that we didn't have any TVs back in Samoa and in New Zealand. They did. When I was there, like before I left, they just barely started to get some. And then they didn't have any, they only had 3 channels in New Zealand before. They didn't even have Sky and all these other stuff. Anyways, that's what I'm saying. That's science, okay, where things, improve. Like the astrologer tried to read the signs in heaven, or the stars, the signs of time, or the events through the stars in the heaven, what you call it, like the wise man, was following the star when the Jared's brother was told, don't tell this to anybody, until Jesus comes to earth. And when they saw the star, you see, the Jaredites, when they saw the star, they knew, okay, now Jesus is coming. So that is scientific right there, proof that God exists and that he created the earth, because he created the star for the Jaredites to see, because there were no phones back then. They didn't have TVs back then. They didn't have news people back then. They didn't even have not horses. What do you call those airplanes? They didn't have cars. Okay, guys. Think about it. 2,000 years ago, they didn't have cars like they do nowadays, and planes where they fly. Okay, so that's science. Science is where, where we have to always improve on natural type of thing. That's what they're talking about. All right.
I guess you're giving up.
I think let me try again on that. The idea that science is a religion, when in fact science is interested in evidence and is prepared to change its mind if contrary evidence comes in. That's very, very different from...
See? So that's what I'm saying about science. Remember the astrologer now is
open to the possibility
actually...
to change our minds, and science proceeds by progressive refinement and changing.
So science is what is changed.
There are things that I suppose
changes
will
all the
never be
time,
disproved.
like
Things like
now we have planes.
planets orbit the sun.
Now we have electric cars. Okay?
I don't think that
We didn't have electric cars back
when
then.
it's disproved, it's always going to be
When America was
we
born
are cousins of
in
chimpanzees
1700.
and of monkeys and of kangaroos.
They didn't have electric cars when
That we
Joseph Smith
know
and
to be true. The evidence is so overwhelming. Stephen
Darwin were
Gould
born,
would be
okay, in
perverse.
1805 and 1808.
The so-called religious truths have absolutely no evidence going for them whatsoever.
That if I challenged you as Richard Dawkins, you'd probably have a problem with that. Doesn't matter who I am.
See how he was saying?
No, we're listening to you now.
Like, you know,
You're challenging me now. And
No,
I'm-
let me
I'm-
hear that again because
Of monkeys and of kangaroos. So there are certain things that we definitely know to be true. The evidence is so overwhelming. That
okay, see what he was saying, the animals?
would be perverse. But
Don't forget this is 10 years ago, so things have improved because
no evidence going for them
back in the days there were no electric cars either. Okay, it's that science right there. They didn't have electric pumps like they do now. Okay, I just saw some right there when we were driving yesterday, and today's December 27, and I was like, oh my gosh, I've always seen them down there by the what do you call the in between the what do you call it? The bills or something like that. Anyways, right there between, as you leave Vegas to go down to California area. Okay, they always have those pumps over there, but not here in the Vegas, right here in our area. And we didn't have, over here where we are, we didn't have an international Harry Reid airport. But that's science, so that's what I'm trying to say. So science is not the same as religion, because religion is actually, is both talks of the spiritual realm and the physical realm, because we live in the physical, whereas because Jesus had to die to go get our lost spiritual life. That's why the human has to also has to die. This body here also has to die in order for the spiritual body to survive, because we still have to survive, to live on this earth. That's why the earth is the way it is. So anyways, there's a lot to learn, guys, but only God knows. And that's why I was sharing that video about that, about Sam Crichton. I didn't know who he was. Where God sent like angels. It was like 4 angels that was saving. It was Lily and her son Osa, and then there was 2 for them, saving them, because there was, I guess there were guys shooting at them because of Sam, and because Sam's younger brothers was Harry and another boy that was there, and there was 2 angels guarding them. But that was the reason of all this fight, because it started from Jordan High, and then I guess it continued. But those guys, I now look back and I see why God was reigning over there with the Tongan during the 2019 visit of President Nelson, because they were, if they should never have gone and be shooting at the church. What are they thinking? That is so, in the Samoan culture, it's very, very it's very, very disrespectful when people do something to the church like that. So see, that's the difference between over here in America and other countries, because God, granted, I didn't know that people were, are evil in the churches, here, but they shouldn't have done that over there, because God literally sent 4 angels to save those guys. after I left there, okay, and I saw it in a dream, and I called my auntie, and she said, "Oh, that those guys almost got killed, but none of them, none of them got hurt, none of them got hit because." Well, I told her there was 4 angels. That's the only reason why I called, because I didn't even know why God showed me there was 4 angels right there next to the church, on Mountain View. Okay, so anyway, so just so you know, there is evidence of God's love for us. I mean, He literally had me pray on my knees, like I said that day when one of the guys was gonna go, but thank God that Tanya is went and saved him, and the people, because I think the guy even was aware of it, because these are the younger generation. So anyways, that's what I'm saying. Things change and people grow old, and so as you guys get older, you gotta have to teach your kids and the younger generation about God and how true He is. And I believe that's why God wanted me to teach you guys all this, because these all really did happen. And I am your witness. I am God's witness to you guys today, okay? That God is real, that Joseph Smith wasn't lying, and that Jared's brother wasn't lying, the Book of Mormon wasn't lying, and Lehi wasn't lying. There really was a Babylonian takeover, and they had to leave, their inheritance. That's what people are confused about. There's inheritance of the Jewish people, and Jared's inheritance was America. So that's why you guys need to learn this. Those guys are not lying when they talk about, Missouri, because, okay, for the Jareds, because the Jaredites, they were the ones that God first saved from before they even, that's the reason why God even started, the Jesus, because Jesus was the one